Does that mean like they only use their left paw for like swiping, like important tasks? I just don't know. It is physically impossible for pigs to look up into the sky. That can't be true. Like, that just can't be true. Hydra, an aquatic creature, is the only living creature that never dies. And it goes on, but it has an ellipsis at the end, so I don't know what the rest of it says. Elephants are the only animals that can't jump. I mean, can a hippo jump? Can a giraffe jump? Can a rhinoceros jump? I don't fucking know. Coca-Cola was originally green because of fresh cocoa leaves. I have no idea if that's true or not. Okay, the next, okay, yeah, let's go to this one, Reader's Digest. I think we can trust Reader's Digest, right? Okay, this is 60 weird facts most people don't know. Prepare to have your mind blown. Flamingos bend their legs at the ankle, not the knee. They essentially stand on tiptoe. Their knees are closer to the body and are covered by feathers. If you actually look at a picture of a flamingo, you can see their weird little knees up to the body. Okay, anyway. Okay. Roller coasters were invented to distract Americans from sin. In the 1880s, hosiery businessman Lamarcus Thompson hated that Americans were tempted by hedonistic places like saloons and brothels. So he set out to straighten out one of the most immoral places he could think of, Coney Island in New York. There he built excuse me. There he built America's first roller coaster to give New Yorkers some good, clean fun away from seedier pastimes. Let me turn the volume down because I can already see I'm getting pop-ups. Go away. Okay. This is the scariest roller coaster in every state. Okay, no thank you. Ice pops were invented by an 11-year-old the shit out of those. Hey, can you lay down? It's impossible to hum while holding your nose. You tested it, didn't you? Okay, I see what they're saying. It's like you can't really, like, when you hum, the air is able to escape through your nose to create the sound, and of course you can't do it. Okay, I understand. This is one of the weird facts you can test for yourself. Try to hum while you're holding your nose. Octopuses have 3 hearts. Squids do too. 1 pumps blood to their whole system, and 2 are dedicated just to the gills. Most wasabi paste isn't real wasabi. Who did I see eating wasabi? It was Grace. I saw Grace eating wasabi. Wasabi is expensive, so most companies use horseradish instead. Real wasabi is actually milder than what you've been getting with your sushi. What do you know? People used to say prunes instead of cheese when having their pictures taken. In the 1840s, a big, dare we say, cheesy grin was seen as childish. One London photographer told people to say prunes to keep their mouth taut. Prunes. Do I look like an asshole? I have a very resting bitch face anyway, so. And that predated today's fish face selfie by about 180 years. In the Philippines, McDonald's serves spaghetti. The pasta comes with a beef, tomato sauce, and a piece of McDo fried chicken. Oh my god. Dunce caps used to be signs of intelligence. 13th century philosopher John Duns Scotus believed that a pointed cap would help spread knowledge from the tip of the brain, and his Dunsman followers wore them as a badge of honor. In the 1500s, though, his ideas became less popular, and the meaning of the Duns cap was turned on its head, becoming something of a joke. That's where dunce caps came from. They used to make you wear dunce caps like in school, I think, way back when, like if you were like in trouble. Adolf Hitler was nominated for a Nobel Peace Prize. I actually did know that. Don't worry, the Swedish politician who sent the letter of nomination in 1939 meant it ironically and withdrew his nomination in an even more ironic twist. Hitler had banned Germans from accepting the Nobel Peace Prize 4 years before his own name was thrown in the ring. Lobsters taste with their feet. Tiny bristles inside a lobster's little pincers are their equivalent to human taste buds. Meanwhile, lobsters' teeth are in one of their 3 stomachs. Gross. The British royal family is named after Windsor. You would think that Windsor Castle was named after the House of Windsor, but it is the other way around. The royal family changed its name from Saxe-Coburg-Gotha in 1917 so it would sound less German, and chose Windsor because they had ties with the English town. 3 Musketeers bar got their names because they used to come with 3 flavors. The original 3 Musketeers bars of the 1930s came in 3 packs with a different nugget flavor in each: vanilla, chocolate, or strawberry. World War II rations made that triple threat expensive, so the company cut it down to 1. Is that a train? I hate the trains. Before toilet paper was invented, Americans used to use corn cobs. Alternative there's like a link to try to get you to to go to another article. The shortest war in history lasted 38 minutes. When the Sultan of British protected Zanzibar died and a new one took over without British approval in 1896. Let me readjust. Maybe my belly will stop being so loud. In 1896, the Brits were not happy. Tension escalated when Sultan Khalid bin Bargash refused to step down, but the British warships spent less than 40 minutes bombarding the palace before Khalid fled, marking the very quick end of the Anglo-Zanzibar War. Okay. Blue whale tongues can weigh as much as an elephant. Let me adjust really quickly. Blue whale tongues can weigh as much as an elephant. Their hearts, meanwhile, can weigh almost a ton and need to beat just once every 10 seconds. Once every 10 seconds. The world's largest waterfall is underwater. Yes, there are waterfalls under the ocean. At the Denmark Strait, the cold water from the Nordic Sea is denser than the Erminger Sea's warm water, making it drop almost 2 miles down at 123 million cubic feet per second. Michelangelo wrote a poem about how much he hated painting the Sistine Chapel. One translation of the poem he sent to his friend begins, "I've already grown a goiter from this torture, hunched up here like a cat in Lombardy, or anywhere else where the stagnant water is poison." Doesn't sound like he was too thrilled with the task. I didn't know that. What? Queen Elizabeth II has a stand-in to make sure the sun won't get in her eyes. Ella Slack has a similar height and stature to the Queen, so before a big events, she'll do a rehearsal to avoid any royal pains like the sun getting in Her Majesty's eyes. Slack has been doing it for 3 decades, but isn't allowed to sit in the throne, so she has to squat above it. That's crazy. Shadows are darker on the moon. On Earth, the atmosphere scatters more sunlight, so our shadows aren't too dark. But on the moon, shadows are so dark that Neil Armstrong said he had trouble seeing where he was going. Let's see. Some sea cucumbers fight with their guts. When threatened, they shoot out. Damn it, I'm glowing again. They shoot their internal organs, which are poisonous to predators. They'll sometimes get rid of their entire digestive system, but they grow back. The inventor of the internet regrets the URL setup. Tim Berners-Lee, who created the main software of the World Wide Web, admitted he regrets one thing: adding the 2 slashes after HTTPS and then the colon in a web address. It was standard for programming, but it didn't serve any real purpose. And when looking back in 2009, he said leaving it out would have saved time and space. Okay. The Statue of Liberty used to be a lighthouse. About a month after the statue Algi's 1886 dedication and became a working lighthouse for 16 years with its torch visible from 24 miles away. Strawberries aren't berries. Neither are raspberries and blackberries, according to botanists. True berries stem from one single ovary flower and have 2 or more seeds. Strawberries don't fit that bill, but bananas, kiwis, and watermelons do. The U.S. Treasury once printed $100,000 bills. Between December 18th, 1934 and January 9th, 1935, the notes with Woodrow Wilson's face were issued to Federal Reserve banks, but never went out to the general public, which is probably for the best. Can you imagine dropping $100,000 bill? Oh my God. Let's see. NASA uses countdowns because of a sci-fi film. The countdown Fritz Lang used to create suspense in the rocket launch in the scene of his 1929 silent film Fra Imond didn't just change film history, it also inspired NASA to use countdowns for its own blast-offs. It's not exactly a race against the clock, though. NASA can pause the clock at any time. Manhattans are an ant species unique to New York City. Biologists found them in a specific 14-block strip of the city. Okay then. Fancy riding on bikes is illegal in Illinois. That includes riding without hands or taking your feet off the pedals when you're on the street. The world's smallest wasp is smaller than an amoeba. The Megaphragma Mimaripen wasp has the same body parts as any other bug: brain, wings, eyes, and more, but it is a fifth of a millimeter long, making it smaller than most amoebas, which are made of just one cell. One cell. Some single-celled organisms can be bigger than a wasp. 2 can play at that game. The collar algae is made of just one cell, but can grow up to 12 inches shortest commercial flight in the world between the islands Westray and Papa Westray, a distance of 1.7 miles, which is scheduled for 90 seconds. 90-second flight. There's a reason why passports come in 4 colors. Have you ever wondered why there isn't a hot pink bestowed. I hear that a new order of knighthood is on the tapes, he wrote. OMG, shower it on the Admiralty. OMG, indeed. Some cats are actually allergic to humans. Though it's uncommon since humans bathe more than your typical animal and don't shed as much hair or skin, some animals can still be allergic to humans. The majority of your brain is fat. You can literally call someone a fathead, but it is still unkind. 60% of human brain matter is made of fat. What is wrong with my stomach? Oranges are not naturally occurring fruits. Oranges may be an iconic fruit, but they are not a naturally occurring one. In fact, oranges are a hybrid of tangerines and pomelos, also known as a Chinese grapefruit. They were originally green and not orange. High heels were originally worn by men. Okay. In the 10th century, men in Europe adopted the now gendered fashion choice. Of heels to make it easier to ride their horses, adding heels to their boots made it easier to stay in their stirrups. The Persian cavalry wore inch high heels, and the trend spread to Europe. Since they showed that the wearer owned and maintained horses, high heels became associated with the upper class. Stop signs used to be yellow. In 1922, the American Association of State Highway Officials met to determine a standard design for stop signs, and that's where they decided on the color, yellow. According to Business Insider, stop signs were yellow because they thought would grab drivers' attention. They'd also considered red, but there was no dye available at the time that wouldn't eventually fade. By 1954, however, sign makers had access to fade-resistant porcelain enamel and could finally start making stop signs, the red color we recognize today. New York was briefly named New Orange. Yes, before it was the Big Apple, it was New Orange. As history reports, when the Dutch captured New York from the English in 1673, they named it New Orange in honor of William III of Orange. The following year, the English regained control and ditched the orange. There was a successful Tinder match in Antarctica in 2014. The dating app is popular across the globe, but it didn't have connection on the least inhabited continent until 2014, when a pair of research scientists, a man working at Antarctica's McMurdo Station and a woman camping a 45-minute helicopter ride away, found they had matched. And for more fun content delivered, blah blah blah. Most wasabi we eat in the US isn't really wasabi, and we learned that just a few minutes ago. That's white horseradish mixed with ground mustard seeds and green dye. Amelia Earhart and Eleanor Roosevelt once went on a joyride. In 1933, Eleanor Roosevelt and Amelia Earhart ditched a fancy dinner in Washington and hopped into an Eastern Air Transport Curtis Condor for a quick trip to Baltimore and back, according to the Baltimore Sun. Earhart, who was wearing a white silk gown, piloted the plane for most of the flight. Green eggs and ham started as a bet. That I did know. Dr. Seuss Classic grew out of a bet with his editor that he could not create a book using fewer than 50 words. And they bet $50, and obviously the editor lost. Andy Warhol inspired Louboutin's red soles. Louboutin shoes are known as much for their high price as for their red soles. But what also has an impressive car collection. Perhaps that early understanding of automobiles inspired her lifelong love of cars. Her collection of vintage Rolls-Royces, Daimlers, Bentleys, and other brands is estimated to be worth £10 million according to Business Insider. Moonshiners used cow shoes to disguise their footprints during Prohibition. To keep their whiskey stills from being spotted, moonshiners during Prohibition would often wear cow shoes with wooden blocks attached to the bottoms to make their footprints resemble a cow's. It takes 364 licks to get to the center of a Tootsie Roll Pop. 364 licks to get to the center of a Tootsie Roll Pop. Engineering students from Purdue University designed a licking machine built to function like a real human tongue. Why didn't they just have somebody fucking do this? And found that it took an average of 364 licks to get to the center of a Tootsie Pop. For what it's worth, 20 volunteers tried the experiment using their actual tongues and averaged 252 licks, and other studies averaged out 144 and 411 licks. Honestly, just bite it. Just bite it. Okay, tree rings get wider during wet years. You probably already know that tree rings can tell you how old a tree is, but they can show you the condition of a given year, according to NASA. Thinner rings appear during drought years, and thick winds mean there was a significant rainfall. The hottest inhabited place in the world is Ethiopia. Ethiopia. Dallol, D-A-L-L-O-L. Ethiopia has the highest average temperature of any inhabited place on Earth. Has the highest average temperature of any inhabited place on Earth. The climate data recorded between 1960 and 1966 had the average high at 106 degrees Fahrenheit. Even in the winter, the average highs were between 97 and 98 degrees. Hot water freezes faster than cold water. A number of explanations have been suggested for the Bimba effect, including one that posits warm containers conduct heat more efficiently, and another that suggests warm water evaporates faster. Warm water freezes faster than cold water. Faster than cold water. Dolphins have names for one another. Dolphins have names for one another. Using unique whistles to distinguish between different members within their pod. Shel Silverstein wrote the song A Boy Named Sue. The well-known Johnny Cash song was actually penned by the famous children's book author and poet behind works such as Where the Sidewalk Ends, The Giving Tree, and A Light in the Attic. He also wrote songs performed by Emmylou Harris, Waylon Jennings, and Loretta Lynn, and more. The bowler hat was invented as a safety measure. The familiar bowler hat may look fashionable, but it began as a purely practical item. A riding helmet meant to protect riders from branches and other obstacles, according to the Telegraph. It was designed by London hat makers Thomas and William Bowler, hence the name. Sea otters hold hands while they sleep. This ridiculously cute behavior is an effort to avoid floating away from their partners during sleep. Sometimes they hold hands in groups, producing a raft. Platform shoes once symbolized status. Status. function. Be careful about drinking any dandelion wine. The French word for dandelion, pissenlit, means wet the bed. The name comes from the fact that dandelion leaves have diuretic properties. Winston Churchill's mother was from Brooklyn. Though he's one of the UK's most famous leaders, wartime prime minister and career politician, Churchill had US roots. His mother, Lady Randolph Churchill, was born in Cobble Hill, Brooklyn. Toto the dog was once a cow. In the original 1902 stage version of The Wonderful Wizard of Oz, Dorothy did not have a dog but a faithful cow named Imogene. Well, L. Frank Baum's book features the Toto we know and love. His adaptation opted for the larger animal. It may seem a long jump from a dog to a cow, but in the later animal we have a character that really ought to amuse the youngsters, he said in 1904. Reno is farther west than Los Angeles. Giant squids have the largest eyes of any animal on Earth. Their eyes are 11 inches wide. Speed dating was invented by a rabbi, Rabbi Yaakov Deo, based in Beverly Hills, California, created the concept of speed dating in 1998, according to the New York Times. He brought together a handful of single men and women for some matchmaking, added beets, coffee, and romance, and efficiency proved to be a match. The blob of toothpaste that sits on your toothbrush has a name. It's called a nurdle. It's called